Magic is often described as the art of causing change in conformity with will, but this simple definition belies the complexity of what actually happens when a practitioner casts a spell. Beneath the surface of candles, herbs, and incantations lies a deeply structured process, a choreography of thought, will, symbol, and energy, moving from the subtle to the material worlds. Spells are more than just wishful thinking wrapped in ritual. They are mechanisms through which a practitioner bridges the gap between desire and reality. Understanding the anatomy of a spell, how it moves from intention to manifestation, is not just academic. It is essential for any serious practitioner who wishes to move beyond superficial gestures and tap into the raw currents of magical power. In today's video, I'm going to unpack the anatomy of a spell by examining its essential stages: intention, alignment, design, charge, release, and manifestation. Each stage is an ecosystem of action requiring the practitioner's focus, understanding, and commitment. A spell is not simply a thing we do, it is a process we become. Through this lens, we will explore the journey from the seed of desire to the tangible fruits of manifestation. Every spell begins with an intention, but the term itself is often misunderstood, especially when people say magic is all about intent, which tends to imply that magic is just wishful thinking. So we need to understand it in terms of how I am using and presenting it here. Intention is not a vague wish or a fleeting thought. It is a focused will statement that defines the purpose of the working. It is not enough to say, I want more money or I wish for love. These are desires, not intentions. An intention must be precise, aligned with the practitioner's true will, and framed in the present tense as if the change is already occurring. For example, I am drawing abundant financial opportunities that align with my talents and ethics, or I am cultivating a loving, reciprocal relationship that nourishes my soul. The quality of intention determines the quality of the spell. If the intention is muddled, contradictory, or superficial, the spell will falter. Practitioners must interrogate their desires. Why do I want this? What am I willing to give in return? Is this aligned with my deepest values? This is the point where many spells fail because, or before they even begin, because the practitioner has not yet clarified what they truly want or why they want it. Without this clarity, the spell lacks a stable foundation, like a house built on sand. Once intention is set, the practitioner must align themselves with the current they seek to activate. This alignment is twofold: internal and external. Internally, it means clearing doubts, fears, and contradictions that might sabotage the spell. If, for example, you cast a spell for abundance but harbor deep-seated beliefs that money is evil or that you are unworthy of wealth, these beliefs will undermine the work itself. Alignment involves shadow work, honesty, and sometimes radical self-reinvention. You must become the person who lives in the world you are trying to create. Externally, alignment involves timing and correspondence. Planetary hours, lunar phases, and seasonal tides can amplify or diminish the energy of a spell. For instance, spells for growth and increase tend to flourish during the waxing moon, while banishing and release spells are often aligned with the waning moon. Similarly, planetary days, such as Thursday for expansion, which is Jupiter, or Saturday for endings, which is Saturn, these can reinforce the spell's energetic signature. While it's possible to cast spells at any time, working in harmony with these natural cycles amplifies the work, allowing the spell to ride on the currents of the universal energy rather than swimming against them. With intention and alignment in place, the next stage is the design of the spell itself. Here, the practitioner constructs the ritual framework, selecting tools, symbols, words, and actions that embody the intention. This is where creativity and tradition intertwine. The practitioner may draw upon established correspondences, herbs, colors, planetary seals, or craft new symbols that resonate with their personal mythos. A spell's design is not arbitrary. It is a symbolic language that speaks to the subconscious, the spirit world, and the deeper forces of reality. For example, in a spell for protection, one might choose black candles, absorbing and shielding aspects, herbs like rosemary and rue, which are traditional protectants, and a circle cast symbolizing strength and defense. The words spoken should reflect the spell's purpose, poetic, rhythmic, and charged with intent. The act of creating the spell's structure is itself a magical act, an act of crafting a vessel to hold the current of change. Yet, design is also where many spells become bloated or overcomplicated. Too many ingredients, too much ritual, or a scattered focus can dilute the energy. A well-designed spell is elegant, focused, streamlined, and potent. It does not rely on superstition or theatrics for their own sake, but on the precise use of symbol and action to encode the desired outcome. A spell is inert without energy. The charge is the vital force that animates the symbolic structure of the spell and carries the intention into the subtle realms. This energy can be raised in many ways through breathwork, dance, drumming, chanting, sexual energy, or visualization. The method is less important than the practitioner's ability to generate and direct the current. Charging is not a passive step, it is a moment of ignition. The practitioner must enter an altered state of consciousness, whether through trance, meditation, or ecstatic focus, and pour their emotional, mental, and spiritual energy into the working itself. This is the point where the practitioner becomes the spell. The boundaries between self and intention dissolve. The practitioner embodies the change they are calling into being. It is also where timing becomes crucial. The energy must peak, whether in a single breath, a shouted word of power, or the climax of a dance, and then be released in a focused burst. If the practitioner dissipates energy too soon or holds onto it too long, the spell can sputter out. The charge is a controlled detonation, an act of focus, ecstatic release. Once the spell is charged, it must be released. This is the handoff point where the practitioner surrenders the spell to the currents of the universe. Holding on to the spell, obsessing over its outcome, or continually checking for results weakens the energy. The spell must be cast like a seed into fertile soil, with trust that it will grow in its own time. Release often involves a final gesture, blowing out a candle, snapping fingers, clapping hands, or a spoken word of dismissal. It is the ritual full stop that signals the end of the working. Some practitioners also ground themselves at this point, releasing excess energy back into the earth or performing a closing rite to seal the circle. The challenge of release is psychological. The practitioner must let go, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. This is where many spells are sabotaged as the practitioner continues to obsess, worry, or doubt. True release is an act of faith, trusting the spell to unfold in its own way and in its own time, even if that means it manifests differently than anticipated. The final stage is manifestation, when the energy of the spell takes root in the material world. This is not always instantaneous or dramatic. Sometimes spells manifest subtly through synchronicities, shifts in mood, or gradual opportunities unfolding over time. The practitioner must remain alert for signs of the spell's movement, while also remaining detached from a rigid expectation of how it should manifest. It is also important to remember that manifestation is not the end of the process, it is the continuation of the practitioner's journey. When a spell manifests, it often creates new conditions that require action, adjustment, or even further magical work. For example, a spell for a new job may open new doors, but the practitioner still needs to apply, interview, and accept the offer. A spell for love may draw a partner, but the relationship must still be nurtured. Moreover, not every spell will manifest as intended. Sometimes the spell reveals deeper blockages or unresolved patterns that must be addressed before true manifestation can occur. In these cases, the spell has still succeeded. It has illuminated the path. The skilled practitioner does not view a delayed or altered manifestation as failure, but as part of the ongoing dialogue between themselves, the universe, and the forces they seek to engage. To cast a spell is to participate in the creative unfolding of reality. It is not a simple cause and effect mechanism, nor is it a passive ritual to be performed without understanding. A spell is a living process. Intention becomes word, word becomes symbol, symbol becomes energy, energy becomes form. Each stage is independent, and a weakness in one will affect the whole. The anatomy of a spell teaches us that magic is not just about manipulating forces, it is about aligning ourselves with them. A spell works when we become the spell, when our intention is clear, our alignment is precise, our design is thoughtful, our charge is potent, our release is complete, and our manifestation is met with awareness and action. Ultimately, spells are mirrors. They reflect who we are, what we believe, and how we engage with the world. They show us our desires, our fears, and our power to create. And when we truly understand the anatomy of a spell, we move from being dabblers or wish makers to becoming artisans of change, witches, sorcerers, and magicians who shape the world with thought, will, and word. And that brings us to the end of today's little show. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers for now. Bye bye.